I want to get this underway. So I'm going to turn off the chat. Thank you everyone for hanging in there. And we'll just see how we go. So I really want to welcome this marvellous, marvellous woman that I've gotten to know, very lucky to know, through Sourcebottle. She's a very well-respected and revered journalist as well, Nina Hendy. So she's joining us tonight, as you all know. I'm just going to remove my face from the screen and pull up, I hope, the what I want you to see, which is a gorgeous face. Okay, so can you now see the screen that you're supposed to see? Nina, can you see it?
Yes, I can.
Beautiful. All right, so today we're going to talk about how to get free publicity using Sourcebottle, and of course we're already supposedly halfway through the webinar, so if you can bear with us for a little bit longer, we'll make sure that we get through this and still have time for questions at the end. First of all, I'd just like to introduce Nina Hendy. She's an Australian business journalist who writes about business, marketing, entrepreneurs, startups, solopreneurs, self-made millionaires, I wish, money and finance. She's regularly published in BRW and various sections of the Sydney Morning Herald, The Age, Smart Company, Startup Smart, Public Accountant, and has just started writing business stories for the BBC Worldwide. What a coup. She's also a content journalism specialist, and she might sort of touch on this, which is a really exciting kind of, I suppose, change in the media landscape. And so she's hired to write for big brands and small businesses, including Microsoft, Telstra, Virgin Money, Westpac, and Census. She's not only that, she's authored several short business ebooks for leading Australian brands and is hired by thought leaders to ghostwrite their columns, which appear in leading local and international publications. So welcome, Nina.
Thank you.
I feel like I should clap. So,
oh,
yes.
Feel free. I started using Sourcebottle about the same time I decided to go freelance. So I'm very grateful to you, Beck, for creating Sourcebottle so that I could do my job.
I'm very, very happy to hear that. So we want to pick your brains about exactly how you've done that. But first of all, tell us just, you know, I know I've probably stolen a lot of your thunder, but tell us a bit about you and what you do.
Well, I started freelancing in 2009. I'd been in newspapers and magazines for a decade or more, and always wanted to be a journalist. And often I'd be getting briefs and wouldn't really understand how I was supposed to fill these vague briefs, like find someone that's just sold their house in Melbourne to talk about tax breaks or stamp duty or whatever it might be. So Sourcebottle was really my saviour because I could find those unusual people through your site, and also if I was writing more on business or marketing, I could often find people I didn't even consider to interview. So it's really an opportunity for me to post up what I'm interested in, what I'm looking for, and to get someone to respond, lots of people to respond, to give me ideas of, you know, things outside of who I might necessarily straight away go to interview and get some new ideas. So it's been great. I've really got a lot out of it.
So you know, do you think it really helps because of the new challenges of being a journalist in this time, this era? Oh, can you hear me? Oh no, Nina, you there? Nina, oh, are you there? You back?
I'm here.
I lost you. I lost you. Okay.
I thought it was wine time, so I left and then I came back.
It's definitely wine time. Maybe even something stronger than wine. So do you think? Can you share with us some of the challenges that you have as a journalist in this day and age, in this era?
Well, there's less of us, as everybody knows, and there's more pressure freelance journalism, I guess, is different, better if you ask me, but we're given more the sort of big picture brief. So I feel as though the in-house newspaper journalists and magazine journalists are given the day-to-day stuff, and the freelancers are handling more the big picture stuff. So the challenges I face is time. There's just never enough of it. There's lots and lots of great briefs coming my way and not enough time to fill them. Often the briefs can be quite vague, so finding someone who loves online shopping that lives in Sydney to be able to be interviewed this week. So other than sharing it on Facebook saying, does anyone live in Sydney, where would you go as a journalist to find someone? I'm not any more special than anyone else. I've got to find that person and meet the brief. So Sourcebottle's a saviour for that. The other challenges are photography. A lot of the time journalists these days have to come up with some photography, particularly if it's, I book photos for Fairfax, but also it's really great if I can present some photography with my story. So it's really great to have some things available if you're a business owner. Hold-ups are a big challenge for me. So the talent saying to me, yes, I'll get back to you, and then not calling for a couple of days, and you're just thinking, oh, it's getting a bit close to my deadline, I might move on.
It's good to remind people of that sort of thing. I mean, these sorts of challenges are very real for you, and so we as potential sources for your stories need to respect and appreciate that when you need us, you really need us, and we need to respect that.
Yeah, I mean, we would never really tell you our real deadline. We have to be in control, whether it's an in-house or an external journalist. I've been both. We can't really say it's, next Wednesday or it's whatever it might be. We have to tell you that we need it in the next 3 days so that we've got the information ready to be able to make sure we've done our research and we're presenting an accurate story. So they're the main deadlines. However, having said that, I always make sure that I've got, if someone amazing comes through, there's always time for them. So that's the challenge. You've got to make sure that you've given your talent some deadlines, but at the same time, if Oprah drops out of the air tomorrow and wants to be interviewed, you've got time to interview her. So you're also juggling, for a freelancer, writing for a lot of publications. If you ring me, I'll often say, they'll say, oh, hi, it's so-and-so. Let's say Karen's ringing me. I've got, I'm just ringing you about that story. Well, I might have 9 on the go at the moment, so I don't know. I need a bit of a hint sometimes as to which one you're talking about, because I've got, 6 interviews for the 9 stories, so you're juggling 50 sometimes interviews at one time over the course of a week or 10 days. So a hint, a bit of a reminder is great. So they're the main challenges that we face.
So on average, how many responses would you get to a call out?
Oh, look, it depends. I mean, if it's something like a business story, I literally might get 60. So I read every single response, and I'm looking for someone that's giving me really specific information, because I have to read 60. I thought I had to make time for 10, and I've suddenly got 60. And in there somewhere is the right person, so I've got to literally read every single one. I would never not read every single one, because the one you don't read is the one that's the right person for this story. So you read all of them, and then you're looking through quickly to find the person that's telling me who they are, what they do, where they stand on an issue. I like to know straight away, I'm a tax expert, and I'm really passionate about working with women and in small business, and helping entrepreneurs or whatever it is. That just makes it really easy, and I think, oh, they're great. Maybe for next time, but now I'll keep moving on. But it's really good. I save all those call outs for another time and might contact them down the track. But yeah, it's best not to be everything to everyone. You've just got to answer the call out, because the brief doesn't change no matter what you say. The brief is exactly the same, so you're best responding to the brief as well as you can.
So tell me, the advantages of using Sourcebottle for you, for when you're searching for your perfect source.
Well, it's not just quick, because you can lay your hands on people very quickly to find the right business person or find someone, because there's more and more. I mean, I've been using it since from the absolute get-go. When did you launch?
July 2009.
Yep, I was freelancing 3 months before that, full time. So I've been using it since then and loving it every week. So, you know, I think what was the question, Beck?
Yeah, it was just in terms of the advantages you feel of using Sourcebottle, which sort of might just help people understand, you know, why you use it and how they can tailor their responses.
Yeah. The advantages are it's really quick. Like, I hang out every day for 10 o'clock and 2. First of all, I love to be able to see what's on the newsletter and what other people are blogging and writing about. It's a bit of a virtual water cooler, really. I sort of like to be able to look at it and see who's writing what. That and Facebook and Twitter. And when I get a new job on my desk, I like to put it on Sourcebottle straight away. It's become a bit of a habit, so that I know I don't need to start working on something for a day or two, but I can start the ball rolling by putting it on Sourcebottle. I've got the, you know, responses coming in the next day or later that day, 10 o'clock or 2 o'clock. So I can sort of see what's coming up and who might work for me. And then I can sort of schedule the interviews for a day or two after that. So that's sort of the timelines I work to. Not everyone's the same, but that's sort of how I work. That's how I use it. It's often someone obscure will come up that you hadn't found through Google, or you've got, you know, I've got a contact book, but you know, it's great to put it out there and see what else might come along. It's just because you can be anonymous, you can just, you know, write about your brief and see what comes up. I did want to say, I wrote once recently on the name of the publication I was writing for Sourcebottle, and the editor contacted me of that publication and said, "Where have you put this? You know, the fact that you're writing this story, we keep getting all these PRs hounding us." That's often why we, you know, particularly external. I'm not sitting in the office of Smart Company or BRW. I'm external. I don't want my editor to be hounded, so I would always be anonymous. It doesn't mean it's some far out, you know, publication in the middle of nowhere. It just means I need to respect my editor's time. They've hired me to do the story. I've got the call out on Sourcebottle, but I don't necessarily want to be, you know, naming where I'm going to be writing this story. Once you contact me and you fit the bill, I'll tell you all about it, but I can't go kind of naming them in the initial. That's right.
Little your editor's offside. So Nina, tell me, what do you look for in a response to a call out?
Yes, I've just got a couple of notes here, so I want to make sure I answer everything succinctly. So I look for some sort of qualification from people. For example, they've been an accountant in Sydney for 20 years, servicing SMEs, or if they specialise in something in particular, then it's a good time to let me know. You know, give me the sort of big picture stuff. I've just launched my new business, and you know, I'm learning on the fly, but I'm really passionate about startups or whatever it might be. I don't just take your response as a reason to talk to you, of course. Regardless of how controversial or whatever you might be, I need to qualify you. I am a journalist. This isn't the only place I go to find talent. So that means checking your website or searching the net for stories you've been in, where you've been quoted. checking your LinkedIn. And if these aren't up to standard, it's less likely that I'll want to follow up with an interview. So making sure that, you know, you've got a really good online presence generally. I mean, I'm a business person. I do that myself. I make sure my LinkedIn's up to date, my website's up to date, you know, that my byline's seen in the right places. So it's the same thing in business. You've got to make sure that your website's saying you do what you say you're doing in your call out. If there's some sort of doubt there, I'm less likely to want to pick the phone up and interview. I don't necessarily want people to answer like often I'll write questions in my call outs. It's just sort of giving you a bit of an idea of what it is, but more important than answering the questions is telling me who you are and why you should be answering the questions. So you know, I'm, as I said, you know, a journalist, you know, an accountant that's been working with a certain field, in a certain field for a long time, or, you know, you're a specialist in social media and you've been doing that for 8 years. And then you might give me your stance, big picture stance, and I'm particularly passionate about this, or I really don't like this about my industry, or whatever it might be. Feel free to put that in there, and then it piques my interest and makes me think, yes, they sound interesting, I'll pick the phone up and ask some more questions.
Yeah, it's actually funny you say that, Nina, because it's one of those things that I often recommend to people when they're asking me these sorts of questions, which is why I'm thrilled to be able to ask you directly. But, you know, like, what should I be including? And, of course, you know, satisfying the brief, that's true. The other thing is, as you say, stating your position on an issue. So, you know, if, you know, you as a journalist are going to cover both sides of a story. You want to hear sort of, you know, want to provide balance. So I suppose is that what you mean when you say sort of saying what your position is on a topic? Is that?
Yes. Yeah. So just explaining whether you're, you know, as you say, you're covering the glorious side of owning real estate in Sydney, and you're also covering the terrible side of owning real estate in Sydney and the costs. So tell me, you know, are you handling that situation well, or are you really struggling and you're more on that side? Because in my story I need to cover both points of view often in a story. So, you know, you need to consider whether you're one or the other and sell me on that position so that I can clearly see when I see the call out that you're one or the other and where you might fit for me.
Perfect. And so can you give me some examples, and I know we've laughed about some of these in the past, of some of the less useful responses you've had? And
I don't want to do this in a mean way, because I'm not a mean girl, but you know, lately in particular, and I understand the situation with PRs because more and more they're getting the pressure, you know, I'm not going to give the interview unless it's these 4 publications, but I can't announce that in my call out because it's as an external and often internal as well. They want to just sort of put the feelers out, and I think my advice would be to understand that the site's for journalists to decide if they'd like to speak to someone, not for PRs to decide whether they want to speak to a journalist. So if you're a PR, I do get quite a few saying we might have a client that's interested, but we need to check. It's a really big turn-off. As I said, the site's for journos to find out and qualify PRs, not the other way around. So, you know, you're better off putting it out there and saying, you know, and a few of them are learning to do that, I've found, and they'll say, you know, we've got this small business owner, I think that'd be perfect for you. I look forward to hearing from you. Don't sort of bleed me for information on who the publication is. I'm not, I will tell you as soon as I can. I just, you know, and sometimes I won't say because I certainly have a commission when I use Sourcebottle, but I also like, you know, sometimes I can see another story in a call out response and I think that's great. I'll keep that one because that's another story for next week for Fairfax Money or someone else, and I just keep it there and I'll contact them a week later. And actually one of the biggest running stories I had on Fairfax Money, Fairfax Small Business, was someone that responded that was not right for a call out, but I could see an opportunity and contacted him. And the editor said, "This story went amazing. Keep giving me stories like this. This was great." And it was a complete fluke that the man wasn't really answering correctly, but it did end up being a really great story for me down the track. But yeah, some of the less I've printed a few out. You know, are you interested in this kind of thing? I've given several talks about Bitcoin payments in the media. Are you interested? But the email address is vague. The name doesn't tell me anything. It's just someone's name. And no email address, no phone number, no LinkedIn, or don't even know what he does. Could be a garbologist for all I know, looking at the call out. Next one, I'm a certified practicing accountant, and last year I wrote about this. I attached my article. Now that's an example of a good call out. I understand you're all time poor. Sorry, I've got those in the wrong order, but that one was a good one because you know, he didn't have probably much time, but I've got his title, where he works, his email address, everything, and then I've got this article, so I can certainly call him and say there's a bit here I'd like to use. Another one, you know, is a PR I work with a lot, and I really respect, but the call out was working on a couple of stories around this topic. Do you have a direct email I can get you on? Please tell me the name of the publication. And I've got 60 to go through. I literally just don't have time to email 30 of them to tell them the name of the publication. It's simple as that. I just, you know, this is one story for the day and there's several others on the go at one time. We operate in...
So, Nina, not everyone's going to be as polite as you. Not everyone's going to read all 60. So
I read them all because I often you'll get something, like, it's not about length either. Often it's something quite short and you'll think, oh, that'll work for something else. I've got like 9 jobs on the go at the moment. He'll be good for that other thing, and I'll slip that guy in the folder over there and think, yep, that'll be for something else, sort of related, because I write on the same topics. You know, you kind of have a lot of related topics. So yeah, but I certainly don't have time to respond, but I read them all. But
yes.
Yeah, you've just got to give me more information about what you're doing and what's title, name, email address, LinkedIn if you've got it handy, web address, you know, that sort of stuff. I need to be able to make sure you weren't quoted last week in my opposition, you know, my editor's opposition. I've got to do all that qualifying myself. So if you can help me do that, that's great.
And so, okay, so in summary, because I know that people, you know, short of time,
yes.
I want them to be able to get to their sort of questions as well. Top 3 tips.
Oh, hey, title and what you do.
Okay. This is just so, because I may have I may not have said the full question. So, top 3 tips for people using Sourcebottle to ensure they get the attention of a journalist.
Yep.
Go.
All right. Make sure you satisfy the brief would be number 1, and then give me your title and what you do. I mean, you might be a PR specialist, but what do you sort of do within that? Are you specialising in a certain area? Don't spend more than 5 minutes responding to the call out. It's really great if you can give me enough information within 5 minutes, whether it's a couple of attachments, don't attach pics, but just 5 minutes to just tell me who you are and why I need to speak to you. So sell yourself, use it as an opportunity to sell yourself as the specialist. And then, you know, give me your top line position on where you stand on the situation.
Great.
Is that enough? Is that all right? I've got more, but I won't
I know, I know. We'll focus on those three. I suppose
Yeah.
I really want to see whether people have some burning questions. So I'm opening up the Q&A. Okay, I'll just
Sure.
turn that on and see whether that works. And if it doesn't, I'll just go back to the chat room.
There's been a few things coming on Twitter, so I'll have a look while I listen.
Okay, great. So I think I might, rather than do the formal Q&A one, I'll just open the chat again, because that seems to, people can then easily ask. Okay, so any questions, any burning questions? If not, we'll be chatting about what else. Don't add pics. Okay, so Jenny has said not to add pics, and that's a question mark.
Yeah, I wouldn't add pics, but I'd say that they're available. I'd be more interested not to see what you look like, but to for you to attach a bio, or when I say attachments, Jenny, I'm saying you know, previous articles or bios or press releases that you've released recently in the last few months.
As long as they're relevant, not just
relevant. Yeah, anything that is relevant to the call out, but all is relevant, like in terms of it gives me a fuller picture of who you are.
So do you think that's pretty standard? I know that a lot of journalists are reluctant. I suppose with Sourcebottle, maybe they feel a little safer with attachments, but the concern is, of course, that they could contain any kind of thing, so they'd be reluctant to open an attachment.
Oh, I'm not reluctant. I mean, no, I'm happy to open attachments. I mean, most people have got decent spamware on their PC these days.
Yep.
Yeah, no, I've got no qualms with opening an attachment. I wouldn't put more than one or two.
No.
And just let me know pics are available. Yes, I've got, you know, lots of great new images, not something that, you know, was in, you know, a publication a year ago. Be getting photos of yourself every 3 or 6 months.
I mean, you're just focusing back on that pictures issue, because that's so true. I mean, we're regularly hearing in the media how many photographers are being laid off as well, and so how often do you think? I mean, absolutely making sure they know that they have pictures available, recent pictures available. But how often should we be getting up to date photographers or photography done? And do we have to pay, like, do an external person to do it for us, or can we do it ourselves?
Yes, I mean, yes, you need to pay someone external to come in, unless you happen to be married to an amazing photographer like I am. But you should, he's an accountant, but he's handy with a camera. But, you know, if you can just get some really great shots that are just show you, you know, what you look like, and if your business is expanding and you're trying to do more, you know, cooking classes you know, as opposed to writing cookbooks, or for example, you know, get photos of you more in that environment rather than you with the cookbook. Get more of you in the class environment, or, you know, make sure your photos sort of represent what you're telling me you do.
Yeah, and more
don't, you know,
action shots kind of things, rather than just the standard profile pic.
Yeah, nice headshots, but not just sort of like, if you can set aside half a day and just, you know, take lots of photos and then drip feed them out. So you might give me, you know, these particular ones, and then next week you'll give a different journo different ones, and then the following 3 weeks you'll see a call out, you know, that's similar to the stuff I put up. You know, you might offer me those. So sort of swap them around all the time. And make sure they're high resolution, which is 300 to 600 dpi, which is around 1 to 2 megs. So if when you open them on your screen, they should be, you know, the size of both of your hands. They should be about that size. Make sure they're big. You don't want tiny little postage stamps because my editors can't resize them. So make sure they're a good size.
That's a really good point. Now, Elle's just asked, do you recommend a professional bio to attach to the call-outs?
Yeah, I mean, but I would look at LinkedIn as well. So as well as looking at your professional bio, I feel as though LinkedIn's possibly more accurate than something written that's, you know, glossy. But that's a great idea to attach a bio as well. That's what I want to know. I need to be able to qualify you in the call out. It's not about answering my questions. However, if you've got the, you know, got the time and you want to answer, you know, a couple of pars, that's fine. But don't go into reams and reams of content and information. Just give me a few pars to whet my appetite, as I say, and then ask me to pick the phone up.
So can I just ask, an expert profile, do you find them handy?
Yeah, they're great. Expert profiles are actually really good. They come out before, they're pretty new, aren't they, on your site? They come out before the newsletter, so they're in my inbox beforehand, and I get to sort of, I always read those as well because I think, oh, you know, I've got a minute, I'll get that story and sit and have a look, and maybe I'll just get that interview done, because often in a story might be 4 or 5 interviews. So if I can get one done and it's not due to next week, and then the next day another one done, before I know it, it's sort of written itself because I've done my interviews, and then I can just sit down and do the writing. And that's how a lot of journos work. They don't sort of write and then stop and then interview and write and stop. I think we do tend to do all the interviews. Then we've got a clear picture in our heads of what the angle is and, you know, whether we're missing a piece of the jigsaw.
Okay. Now, Andrea said, thanks, Nina, great session. Do you refer to Google Plus and Instagram at all for your research?
I personally don't. I personally don't. No, I don't look at Google Plus or Instagram. I do look at Twitter, and I certainly look at Facebook.
And LinkedIn.
But Instagram's not really, like, it's more, you know, more pics, and yeah, no. In Google Plus, no.
Okay. Yeah, I must admit, well, the followers and everything on Google Plus, despite being such an amazing platform, I think, it just doesn't seem to have that sizable following.
Yeah, I certainly don't use it much these days yet, but, you know, Facebook, if you go onto a business person's Facebook and have a look at their posts, you can get a good idea. I guess what I'm trying to say is that, you know, my job, and everyone, whether you're internal or external journalist, like I'm a journalist for BRW, but I don't sit in the office there, is for me to be able to qualify who I'm speaking to. So, you know, I don't want my editor coming back to me and saying, oh, he was quoted last week in this other article. We don't want him, you know, quoted again this week. I need to make sure I've done all those checks and balances. And if someone's only been in an industry, they were a nurse and now they're saying they're an entrepreneur, you know, I need to know that last week they were a nurse and they're really not probably the right talent I need to be talking about being an entrepreneur. So, you know, there's a lot of work involved in making sure the person's the right fit.
And look, just another question, in terms of proactive, you know, being sort of proactive in terms of creating great content, do you think, you know, that's one of the areas that freelance journalists are going to sort of branch out a lot more into, that owned media space where a brand will own some sort of publication, some media outlet?
Definitely, yeah. I work in that space now and I write for lots of big brands for create ebooks, and I write articles. Westpac's got a new site, And in those, the briefs are, they're really good briefs. I'm really proud to do those stories. It's not like sort of the old school advertorial. They're a really amazing topic of, you know, they're aiming at SMEs, and they want to tell SMEs about you know, how to get a loan. But my brief is, don't speak to anyone at Westpac, speak to everyone else. Get them to tell you what it's like, and then, you know, you've got your 1,000-word story, and it's on the Westpac site, and that's good content. That's really quality content. So, you know, there's often opportunities in that content space for me to be interviewing independent people in the finance space, or you know, whatever it might be that I'm writing about, to give me information for the, you know, the layman, exactly the same as a newspaper. And there's more and more brands wanting to hire journos. I sit in both camps. I've got a foot in both camps, and I'm really proud of that. I really enjoy the diversity of doing both, and I feel as though I've got the skills as a journalist to create really great content for the brands as well, and business owners. So yeah, there's good opportunity there, and you know, I always make sure I let them know what's going on. It's for Census, or it's for Westpac, or whoever the publication might be. Private media, which is Smart Company, because I write their content as well. So yeah, there's a lot more of that going on.
I think also, I wanted to stress by asking that question, is that if those sorts of call-outs appear, so for people to realise that they're very credible stories, and the audience is usually really significant, and so it's certainly not an opportunity that should be overlooked just because it's not the Sydney Morning Herald, for example.
No, that's right. There's just a couple of questions here, Beck. So yeah. Once you find a suitable response to a call out, do you remove it from Sourcebottle? No, I mean, oh, sorry, that's a question for you, Beck.
Yeah, no, I think probably what Shamika means is, yeah, so do you, if you find your call out, your talent that you want, do you then ask for the call out to be removed, or?
No, I never. I leave it there for the deadline. I never ask it to be removed. And how do I come up with titles? My view on clickbait. Well, I stopped writing for a publication last year because I was writing a lot of clickbait and I wasn't enjoying it very much. I think, you know, there's a lot of people sitting on the newspaper websites these days looking for clickbait, and everyone, you know, the newspapers have to deliver, and I don't sort of want to deliver. I like to sort of stay out of that, and, you know, writing articles that literally write to a headline. You've been given a headline, you've got to write the article around it, and you're pitching really amazing articles for a small business publication, for example, that really, really matter, and you know that these guys that are online here tonight, or you know, they really would get a lot of value out because it's on a new app, or it's on a you know, something amazing happening in the startup world. But you've got to write the, you know, I won't sort of say any names, but the clickbait, yes, the headlines that you have to write to, I certainly have refused to do that. I don't think anyone values from that, and I stopped doing that. I did it for about 5 months last year, or might have been the year before now, and I didn't feel good. I couldn't sleep very well, so I stopped.
Oh, good on you.
Thanks for your question.
Yes, thank you, Jenny, for your question. Sarah has joined us, and yes, I'm so sorry, Sarah. It was originally apparently due to start in 7 minutes, 8 p.m. Brisbane time, but it was meant to start at 8 p.m. Sydney, Melbourne time, and so that was just my stuff up. But I promise you that I'm going to make it all available to you in both in a transcribed form as well as a video form. But while you're here with us, Sarah, do you have a question for Nina? Oh, there you go. Yes, it will be available later for you at least to watch the recording. Yes, yes, yes. But do you have any questions? Because the Q&A is the bit that I think most people can really get value out of. So if anyone has any further questions while we've got in the dying minutes of this great chat with Nina, please bring them on, because that's the only bit that we can't make up for in a recorded webinar. I mean, for me, what you were saying as well, though, I just think is really interesting about the clickbait. I think the problem is, of course, you want to write great content where the story actually lives up to the promise of the title, and I suppose with clickbait, that's just never the case, is it?
No, I mean, I did some in the yes, I'm not very proud of it. I guess I started off writing for a publication that the briefs were really, really interesting, and I was bringing my editor really great stories every week, and I was just told, do it, do it, do it, keep doing those. I was just writing, 2 or 3 stories a week for this particular editor, and the briefs became less and less interesting, in my point of view, to the business owners that we were supposed to be targeting, and more, stuff that, would end up in other parts of the publication. And I just decided, I just thought it was a good idea to stop doing that, and I really enjoy writing about business and marketing. I really want to find as many homes for my stories as I can. If you go to my website, ninahendy.com.au, I've got a little 60-second video on how freelance journalism works that you can watch.
Well, that's available. So what is it, ninahendy.com.au?
Yeah, and there's just on my homepage, there's just a little video on how freelancing works. You can also sign up to my contact list on my website, the little key symbol. So if anyone wants to sign up to that, what I use that for is, if I've got quite a few briefs on the go, I can also send them out that way and let you know what I'm working on. So yeah, it's just there's lots of opportunities out there for small business owners to get their names up in lights. It's just a matter of not losing faith if you're not contacted all of the time. I mean, it's literally, I don't know what my editor might want next week. I don't sort of hold all the cards, and neither do the guys in-house. I worked in-house for a long time. It's just a throw of the dice often, and it's a matter of saying, this is who I am, this is what I stand for. Don't try and be all things to all people. It will. The time will come, and it'll come when it's right, and it'll be your time to shine when that time comes. But yeah, don't try and be a bit of everything. Can I just say one more thing, Beck? If I am looking for something really vague, like someone that just sold their house in Sydney, and your sister just sold her house in Sydney, and you can drop her a line. Being the person that gives me that information, and me going, oh, Jenny, that was so nice of you to do that. Thank you. That's really great that you gave me your sister's phone number that can work really well for this case study. That's not forgotten. I mean, journos always need helping. And if you're able to help in any way with contacts, maybe it's not you this time, but you know someone else that will work well, that's never forgotten.
Well, that's, I think, one of the other things that I love about Sourcebottle is everyone shares the call-outs. It's one of those things where it's a fabulous community. They say, yeah, my sister has, and if they don't get in touch with you and tell you that directly, they'll forward the call-out to them. Now, there's a few more questions that are all coming in thick and fast. I just realised we didn't finish answering Jenny's question, though. She said, how do you come up with titles?
Titles for the stories?
Yeah, because that was the first time the question about clickbait.
Look, journos often don't write the titles. We don't know what the space is that the story's going to fit in, whether it's online or in print. We will give it a working title, I guess, that gives the editor a bit of a direction on where it's going, but it's up to them. They often will change it completely to suit their space or their needs of the day. You know, we're all in a bit of a sales game, so you know, I certainly, you know, you've got to make sure you're presenting the facts correctly, but it's up to the editor to write the headline. That's not, you know, that's the one bit of the story the journo often doesn't write. So.
Now, Karen's asked, what is clickbait?
Stories that you know, like stories on online newspapers, for example, that make you want to click, like, you know, these particular celebrities have named their baby, find out what the name of the baby is, or, you know, 5 great ways to, like those listicles they call them, you know, 5 great ways to do this or do that, or
5 mistakes you've made when you know, in your LinkedIn profile, those sorts of things, where you feel compelled to open them.
Feel compelled to click, and they're not real journalism. They're more often lists of information, or, you know, they're just sort of, yeah, they're not real stories really. They're just, you know, I mean, I must say Mamma Mia does do a lot of that. I'm on social media with them and with Mamma Mia, and it's all just clickbait really.
Well, they used to have that one that they had the traditional media Mamma Mia Twitter handle, and they had the spoiler Mamma Mia ones. So they would have the clickbait title, and then they would say what this is really about is, you know, this. And so they had that Twitter handle going for a while, because that was very classically, obviously, clickbait.
Yeah.
Katrina, I hope that's answered your question, Karen. Katrina's asked, are you open to pitches?
Always, always, always. I've got a Pitch Me Monday session on my website as well, so you can go there and book a time, and I will call you on a Monday. And I will take notes, and I will let you know whether or not I've got an editor that might suit your story. I've just started doing that the last 3 months or so, and it's going really well. It's great because as a freelancer, I've got about 8 editors I write for a lot, and I need to give them lots of great stories. So I'm really enjoying having that opportunity where business owners or PRs can book a time for me to call them, and I can just take notes and ask questions and get the story. But by all means, ring me anytime. Always open for stories. I won't necessarily be able to publish them, but I will let you know if I think it will work for an editor. The way it works as a freelancer is that I will take it to an editor if I feel like it's a good fit. Obviously, I'm not going to bother talk. I've just got an appointment coming now, actually. Someone's booked one now, which is lovely. Thank you. I'm always open to stories, but I'm not going to pitch. I'm not going to take a story idea to an editor unless I feel as though it's going to be a good fit.
So, no problem. Awesome. Penny Smith has asked, do editors turn down stories because they have appeared in another of the same company's titles? So not competition. So BRWC's person quoted in Sydney Morning Herald. So says no. Does that happen?
Yes, it does, Penny. If not so much a person quoted, but if the story's run somewhere else. So, you know, you can Penny, or anyone, you know, you can be quoted in lots of titles on various topics. But you know, if I've pitched a story, what happens is, as a freelancer, I would suggest to an editor, I've got this for you this week. This is what I want to be writing about. Is it of interest? Sometimes it's no. Sometimes it's yes. You know, you get very good after years of doing that to know what they do want and what they don't want. So it's more about the story and you know, saying this is the story I think I really want to write for you. And then once I've got my outline, I've got my 1,000 words, then I start researching and finding the talent for the story and giving it some bones and finding the information, the facts, the experts and all of that stuff. That's when I straight away turn to Sourcebottle to see what comes along. Certainly wouldn't be naming the publication, but I would like to see if anyone knows anything about this particular issue I might be writing about. I often write more about issues and people's individual stories than I do about, you know, daily news. So no, you can certainly have lots of bites of the cherry.
Okay, so I know it's 9 o'clock daylight saving time, Eastern Standard Daylight Saving Time, so we probably need to wrap it up quickly. But Sarah, who was having difficulties getting on board and who
Hi, Sarah.
I stuffed around because of the timing issues. She says her main question is, how long should we wait after we submit quotes responses to know if the journalist is going to use it?
Usually within 24 hours, maybe 48. As I said earlier, Sarah, you're better off using your call out to qualify yourself. So, you know, if a journo's saying this is what my story is and I need someone to talk to me about whatever the topic is, tell me why you're the best person for that topic, rather than necessarily telling me everything you know about the topic. Tell me why you're the best person, and then I can pick the phone up. Maybe give me a couple of juicy quotes in your call out, but then stop, move on to the next call out, or go and have a coffee or do something else, and accept that some days, you know, there won't necessarily be a call out, but, you know, your name's coming up in my inbox, you know, every time you put your call out there. So it's at least building awareness, which is great as well. I mean, there's a lot to be said for the next time I think, oh, I don't need to do that Sourcebottle call out because, you know, I know Sarah's an expert in this topic. She told me all about, you know, how she's just come back from New York and done this course, and she knows all about it. So, you know, it's worth just qualifying yourself in those call outs.
That's a real answers. Yeah, that's a great point, Nina. I think that's true, Sarah. Like, so many people go to so much trouble responding to a call out and then feel so disheartened if it's not used, and they kind of don't know that they're in that grey area where, you know, a week, 2 weeks passes and they think, can I use it myself instead?
Yeah.
So avoid that situation by just doing what Nina's saying, qualifying why you're the right person rather than, you know, showing your deck of cards in that response.
Maybe a couple of juicy quotes, as I said, and just leave it.
That's good. Be sexy talent. I always say that's the most important thing. State your position and makes you sexy talent. Okay, now Mohammed said, do you have any advice on making the content for startups promoting Clip to be put on a crowdfunding website? Mohammed, I'm not...
So great, but I don't know much about it. Content for startup promoting Clip to be put. No, I don't. Sorry.
Well, that's a bit. I don't think I do either.
No.
Look, I'll like offline after this and see whether I can maybe respond to you, Mohammed. I'm just not sure how I can exactly what you want. But I think we probably should wind it up because it's been.
Thank you, everybody.
Been so generous. Thank you so much, Nina, and everyone. I'm really, really sorry about all the technical issues.
Thanks for bearing with us. I had this people in my office at one time.
I think we've probably now made up with Google Hangouts. I think it's all right. I think it's all right. So I think it was me, not them. But Nina, look, I'm going to see whether Nina will join us again for another webinar on another topic because she's a font of knowledge. But thank you, everybody, so much. I'm going to sign off now.
All right. Thanks, Beck.
Thanks, Nina.